Among the many compelling Christian figures of the early 20th century who emphasized sanctification and whom Johan Oscar Smith featured in Hidden Treasures, Jessie Penn-Lewis stands out as one of the most fascinating. To this day, her literature and the many articles she wrote in the magazine The Overcomer have been of great help to many Christians. Jessie was born in the South Wales in 1861 into a family with a background rooted in the Calvinistic Methodist tradition. When she was 16, her father passed away, and at 19, she married William Penn-Lewis and settled in Richmond outside of London. In 1892, when she was 31, Jessie had a transformative experience while studying Paul's letter to the Romans chapter 6. She had always believed that the primary objective of a Christian life was the baptism of the Holy Spirit. However, she now realized that this was merely the beginning of the Christian journey. Following the baptism of the Holy Spirit, Christians were meant to enter into fellowship with Christ's cross. Her new goal became this: through the death of the cross, into union with the ascended Lord in the bosom of the Father. After this, she quickly became a popular speaker, first at the Young Women's Christian Association in Richmond, and then at various Christian conferences. In 1895, she published The Pathway to Life in God. Here, she explained her views on the development of Christian life, moving through different phases, starting from conversion, then the baptism of the Holy Spirit, and progressing to sharing in Jesus' sufferings on the cross. This, she believed, led to a life of spiritual authority. The book gained popularity among many Christians and was also translated into other languages. Johan Oscar Smith was among those who read Penn-Lewis's books. As early as 1908, he wrote to his brother Axel,
"The books by Jessie Penn-Lewis that you gave me are excellent. I have read them several times. It is a pleasure to read many things there that God has also revealed to us."
In 1911, he also mentioned Penn-Lewis in a letter to Elias Aslakson.
Mrs. Penn-Lewis wrote a good article in the April issue of The Overcomer about how we must fight and suffer first, and then come to authority. She describes 4 stages: the forgiveness of sins and new birth, the baptism of the Holy Spirit, the way of the cross, the battle that leads to victory and authority. This was a blessing to read, because that's the way it is, especially the last 3 points.
Jessie Penn-Lewis eventually travelled to other countries as a preacher, making several trips to Sweden, Russia, and even India. In 1898, she was, for the first time, a speaker at the popular evangelical Christian Keswick Conference in England, where she would participate several times in the coming years. In 1902, a group of Welsh pastors asked her to help them establish a similar conference in Wales. She then helped found the Llandrindod Wells Convention, which began in 1903. And in 1904, a great revival broke out in Wales. The revivals took place in various locations and were led by different preachers. However, it was primarily Evan Roberts who became the leader of this revival, spreading its message throughout southern and western Wales. Evan Roberts was the son of a miner and had worked in the mines for several years. From his childhood, he was known to be a devout Christian. He was an avid reader of the Bible and also spent several hours in prayer every week, both alone and with others. In 1904, Roberts was studying to become a pastor in Wales, and that autumn he began holding small meetings that quickly grew into large gatherings of several thousand people. The focus of these meetings was on confessing sins and receiving forgiveness through Jesus Christ, removing all harmful influences from one's life, being ready to obey the Holy Spirit, and publicly confessing Jesus Christ as Lord. The effects of Roberts's preaching and the meetings he held were enormous. Tens of thousands were converted, and many radically changed their lifestyles. Young people, in particular, joined in with great enthusiasm. The revival also had a profound impact on society, with many social problems disappearing almost overnight. Jessie Penn-Lewis also took part in this revival. She served partially as a spiritual mentor to several of its leaders, including Evan Roberts, while also writing her own reports under the title the 1904 revival in Wales. Her accounts helped bring the revival to the attention of an international audience. The revival in Wales differed in many ways from earlier revivals in Great Britain, and in some respects foreshadowed the Pentecostal revival that would emerge a few years later. Music played an active role, and there was emphasis on alleged supernatural phenomena, especially with Evan Roberts' claims of having received several visions inspired by the Holy Spirit. However, Roberts' success came at a cost. In 1906, he suffered a nervous breakdown, withdrew from evangelism, and secluded himself. During this time, he moved in with Jessie Penn-Lewis and her husband in their home in Richmond. From then on, Roberts lived a more solitary life, devoting much of his time to prayer and reading. While he was staying with them, he began working closely with Jessie. In 1909, they launched The Overcomer, a magazine for Christian workers. The magazine gained an international readership, and as noted earlier, it was through this magazine that Johan Oscar Smith first discovered Jessie Penn-Lewis's writings. Despite the many positive impacts and outcomes of the Welsh revival, Penn-Lewis eventually became critical of certain elements of it, and of revivals in general. She proposed a theory that some of the physical manifestations associated with revival could actually be the work of evil spirits imitating the Holy Spirit. She addressed this topic in a series of articles published in The Overcomer. In 1912, she and Evan Roberts co-authored War on the Saints. In this work, they expanded on their hypothesis that evil spirits could influence revival movements, warning of the danger of satanic influence on the unconscious mind. While acknowledging that revivals were a work of God, they cautioned that newly converted Christians could fall victim to what they termed spiritual obsession. They argued that a baptism of the Spirit not followed by a participation in the suffering of Christ's cross was at best incomplete, at worst false. War on the Saints sparked heated debate and drew criticism from various quarters, including both charismatic and non-charismatic holiness preachers and theologians. However, Penn-Lewis stood by her analysis and further developed it in her subsequent writings. In 1913, she published Soul and Spirit. This book explored the significance of Christian conversion and provided detailed insights into the challenges linked to Christian revival movements. In Part 2, we will delve deeper into this book. Johan Oscar Smith included it in Hidden Treasures in 1927. But what did Smith aim to achieve with this? And why was the distinction between soul and spirit so crucial to both Penn-Lewis and Smith?